Have you ever stepped into a grocery store, glanced at the produce section, and wondered if those higher prices mean healthier choices, or if there's a better way to spend your money? For many of us in our 70s, making every dollar count is more important than ever. Rising costs of living can feel daunting, and it's easy to assume that fresh, nutritious foods are too expensive or complicated to incorporate into our daily routines. But here's some encouraging news. Focusing on just a handful of budget-friendly fruits can make a big impact on your health without draining your wallet. One challenge many older adults face is figuring out how to get enough nutrients when appetites change and food budgets are tighter. It's natural to want the best possible nutrition, but it can be difficult to navigate all the options, especially when labels and advice seem to change constantly. You might worry about spoiling produce or buying more than you can consume in a week. You could be dealing with limited mobility, which makes frequent trips to the store harder. Or maybe you've tried adding more fruit to your diet in the past, only to end up feeling overwhelmed by complicated recipes. Why does it matter so much to keep fruit in our diets after 70? The simple answer is that fruit provides vitamins, minerals, and fiber, nutrients that help maintain energy levels, support healthy digestion, and contribute to overall well-being. Many of us notice shifts in our health as we get older. Perhaps you find it a bit tougher to stay energized throughout the day, or you're concerned about supporting your heart health, or maybe you just want to keep your immune system strong. Adding fruit is a small, positive step that can help you feel more vibrant and confident in your day-to-day life. Even if you're managing a chronic condition, most healthcare professionals agree that including fruit, while keeping your doctor's guidance in mind, can be an essential part of feeling your best. In just a moment, you'll discover 5 affordable fruits that deserve a spot in your grocery cart. Each one comes with practical tips for choosing, storing, and enjoying it in various meals and snacks, plus a look at how these fruits might support your overall health and wellness. You'll also hear stories from people just like you, neighbors in their late 60s, 70s, or even 80s, who have found simple ways to make these fruits part of their routine. I'm not a medical doctor, but I've been passionate about gathering reliable information from nutrition experts and seniors themselves for years. Through this video, I'll share what I've learned and what I've seen work for others, all with the goal of helping you add just a bit more nutrition into your day in a low-stress, enjoyable way. If you're ready to see how a few small changes at the grocery store can help you feel more satisfied, invigorated, and in control of your daily meals, keep watching. By the end of our time together, you'll have a clear plan for making the most out of these 5 fruits, without spending a fortune or feeling overwhelmed. So think about which fruit you'd reach for first, and let's jump into the details of how you can make better, budget-friendly choices on your very next shopping trip. Now let's look at the first fruit that often ends up at the bottom of the cart, literally, but might just be one of the best purchases you can make. We often hear that bananas are too high in sugar or that they spoil too quickly to be worth purchasing in bulk. And while it's true that bananas ripen fast, they're also an incredibly affordable source of potassium, fiber, and quick energy. Some folks believe you only need bananas for your morning cereal, but let me share a story about Glenn, who's 76 and loves to experiment in the kitchen. Glenn used to buy bananas solely to slice over his oatmeal because he'd been told it was an easy way to get extra vitamins. But he had concerns. Aren't bananas just sugar bombs? He would ask whenever the subject came up. Glenn realized his fear of sugar spikes was overshadowing the fact that bananas come loaded with nutrients that many of us in our 70s can benefit from, particularly potassium, which helps support healthy blood pressure. He also learned that bananas have different levels of sweetness depending on ripeness, and that pairing them with protein can balance out their natural sugars. Curious, he began to add banana slices to whole grain toast with a little peanut butter, or blend a half banana into a smoothie with Greek yogurt. Rather than experiencing energy crashes, Glenn found these snacks satisfying and energizing. When bananas do get overly ripe, he freezes them to avoid waste, then blends them into a simple banana ice cream by mixing frozen chunks with a splash of milk. He's discovered that bananas can be easily tucked into a variety of meals, from hearty stews for a touch of natural sweetness, to fruit salads and smoothies. If cost is a concern, bananas are often the cheapest fruit in the produce section, and you can buy them at different stages of ripeness, some green, some yellow, so they don't all become overripe at once. If your appetite has changed and you're concerned about finishing them, you could pick up just a few to start. All this has shown Glenn that bananas aren't something to fear. Rather, they can become a dependable staple that offers important nutrients for both physical energy and that sense of emotional comfort that comes from a sweet but wholesome treat. If you're looking for a versatile, easy-to-handle fruit, bananas deserve a second chance on your grocery list. Maybe you've avoided them for fear of sugar, but as Glenn discovered, pairing them wisely and controlling portion sizes can make bananas a supportive part of your daily diet. And when you transform them into different textures, like frozen desserts or mashed into batters, you might just find a fun new way to approach desserts and snacks. It's easy to think bananas are a once-in-a-while thing, but they can offer year-round benefits for both budget and health. Before we move on, take a moment to think. Is there a recipe you love that could be enhanced by bananas? Or maybe you have an old family favorite that uses them in a creative way. Jot down a quick idea for how you'd use bananas in a new way this week. Sharing your plans with a friend or family member can help you stay motivated. Next, let's shift to a classic that many of us grew up enjoying, but might have brushed aside for fancier, more exotic fruits: apples. It's common to assume that apples are boring or lack the excitement of tropical fruits or colorful berries. But just as we can sometimes underestimate a dear old friend, we can also overlook the humble apple. One misconception is that apples aren't worth the effort if you have dentures or sensitive teeth, as some seniors find them hard to chew. Linda, who's 72, used to feel that way. She adored apples in her youth, but after some dental work, biting into one became uncomfortable. For a while, she stopped buying them altogether. Yet Linda missed the crunch and flavor, not to mention the satisfaction an apple can bring. She decided to experiment with softer varieties first, like Macintosh or Golden Delicious, and also tried slicing them thinly or baking them for a softer texture. She discovered that the taste of a warm, cinnamon-dusted baked apple was enough to rekindle her love for this fruit. Nutritionally, apples come with soluble fiber, especially when you eat the peel. This type of fiber can support digestive health and help maintain balanced cholesterol levels. There's also a sense of nostalgia and comfort tied to apples, whether it's remembering apple pies from childhood or enjoying the scent of fresh apples in the kitchen. If you're watching your budget, apples are among the most readily available fruits, especially if you choose in-season varieties or check for store specials. They also tend to have a relatively long shelf life if stored properly in a cool, dry place, so you don't have to worry about them spoiling too quickly. Linda learned to incorporate apples into her day by slicing them into a simple yogurt parfait, baking them with oats for a homemade apple crumble, or cooking them down into applesauce. She even got adventurous and combined diced apples with onions and a bit of chicken stock to create a sweet and savory sauce for her pork chops. This is where apples can really shine. They work equally well in sweet dishes as in savory meals. For a senior living on a tight budget, that versatility means you don't have to buy a lot of different items to add flavor and nutrients to your menu. The emotional payoff for Linda has been the familiarity of a childhood favorite, reimagined in a way that suits her current needs. For many of us, there's comfort in returning to something we've always loved. So if you've pushed apples aside because you're worried about the texture or the taste, think again. You can choose varieties that are softer, cook them, or even blend them into sauces. Sometimes it's just about rediscovering how these tried and true fruits can fit your life today. Before we meet our next fruit friend, here's a little question for you. Can you recall the last time you had a really delicious apple dish? Maybe it was decades ago. If so, consider finding a simple recipe like a baked apple with a sprinkling of cinnamon and treat yourself to that comforting taste again. Moving along, let's explore a fruit that often gets associated with breakfast or a glass of juice: the orange. Many seniors assume that oranges are too messy or sour to bother with, or they think that a daily glass of juice is enough to get all the benefits. However, that's not the entire story. Oranges in their whole form are a fantastic source of vitamin C and also provide a decent amount of fiber, something you miss out on if you only drink the juice. Let's talk about Michael, who's 68 and has found that he's more prone to catching seasonal colds these days. Inspired by his mother's old habit of slicing up an orange whenever she felt run down, Michael decided to revisit whole oranges, rather than just relying on orange juice from a carton. At first, he worried about potential acid reflux, as he'd heard that acidic fruits can aggravate it. But by enjoying his orange earlier in the day and pairing it with foods like whole grain toast or a handful of nuts, he didn't experience the discomfort he feared. In fact, he felt more hydrated and refreshed. The misconception that oranges must be peeled and eaten in messy wedges is easily tackled by slicing them into neat rounds that you can quickly enjoy. Some people like to remove the peel in a spiral pattern, while others find pre-sliced oranges in the grocery store. And if you're living with arthritis in your hands, you might find peeling an orange challenging. One of Michael's solutions was to choose easy peel varieties such as clementines or mandarins, smaller but with a looser skin, making them a breeze to handle. These can be cost-effective too, especially when they are in season. Nutritionally, oranges bring vitamin C, which many of us associate with immune support, plus natural sugars for a gentle energy boost. Emotionally, there's something uplifting about that bright citrusy scent. For Michael, it's become a small ritual. He'll sit by the window in the morning sun, peel his orange, and savor each bite. It gives him a moment to pause, reflect, and appreciate the day ahead. Sometimes the emotional benefit of a particular food is just as important as the vitamins and minerals it provides. If you've hesitated to buy fresh oranges because you think juice is enough or that it's too difficult to peel them, consider following Michael's example. Look for those easy-to-peel varieties or ask a friend or relative to help slice a few for you so you can store them in a container in the fridge. Having them ready to go makes it more likely you'll actually eat them. Up next, we'll take a brief look at a fruit that often surprises people when we talk about budgets: berries. But before we dive in, I'd love to hear your thoughts so far. Which fruit do you already feel most excited to try again in a new way? If you want, you can share your ideas or keep them to yourself. Either way, thinking it through now can help you take a confident step later. Now, many of us think of berries as a luxury item, delicious, but too expensive to buy regularly. Fresh blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries can indeed be pricey, especially out of season. That's why a lot of seniors write them off as an occasional treat. But the key is realizing that frozen berries are often significantly more affordable, last much longer, and still offer nutritional value that's comparable to fresh. Barbara, who's 74, had a habit of carefully choosing a small container of fresh blueberries each week, only to watch them go bad before she could finish them. She'd feel guilty about the waste and the money spent. After a friend suggested trying frozen berries, Barbara was initially skeptical. Frozen? Would they still taste good? Would they become a mushy mess? She soon learned that frozen blueberries and strawberries work wonderfully in a wide variety of dishes, from smoothies to oatmeal toppers, even baked goods like muffins. In fact, freezing berries soon after they're picked can help lock in nutrients, making them a wise choice for seniors wanting to stretch both their budget and their grocery inventory. Barbara discovered that she could buy large bags of mixed berries at a lower cost per serving than fresh alternatives. When she wants a quick dessert, she'll simply heat a handful of frozen berries in the microwave and spoon them over a piece of angel food cake or swirl them into yogurt. Another tip: if you have trouble with portion sizes, you can measure out what you need while the berries are still frozen and then return the rest to the freezer. That way, you're not risking spoilage in the fridge. Nutritionally, berries are known for their antioxidants, which help support overall cellular health. Many of us are keen to preserve our memory and cognitive function, and there's some evidence to suggest that the compounds found in berries may offer benefits in that realm. Of course, there are no guarantees, but adding berries is one small step that might have a positive cumulative effect on our health. Emotionally, knowing you have a sweet, colorful ingredient on hand can be a real mood booster. Even in the dead of winter, Barbara's morning oatmeal looks bright and inviting with a handful of berries. If you've never thought about buying frozen berries, now might be the time to explore that freezer aisle. Just check the labels for added sugars or syrup. Ideally, you want the berries by themselves. That way you can control the sweetness in your own recipes. This strategy lets you enjoy a taste of summer all year long, without worrying about spoilage or high prices. Before we move on to our final fruit, take a moment to reflect on your own habits. Have you ever skipped buying berries because you thought they were too expensive or would spoil too fast? Maybe consider picking up a small bag of frozen berries on your next trip to the store. And if you have grandchildren or neighbors who love berries, this could be a fun way to connect. You can whip up a simple berry smoothie or topping together, sharing both the preparation and the enjoyment. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about pears, another classic that sometimes slips under the radar. Pears can be overlooked because people often assume they're either too hard and tasteless or quickly become bruised and mushy. Frank, who's 80, used to say, "I never buy pears because they go from rock hard to mush overnight." But he realized there's more to pears when his local senior center offered a cooking class. One misconception is that all pears taste the same, and if you've had one less than ideal experience, you might think they're not worth the trouble. However, different varieties like Bartlett, Bosc, or Anjou offer distinct textures and flavors, and they also ripen at different speeds. Frank learned a ripening trick. If you place pears on the counter at room temperature, they'll soften gradually, and you can gently press the neck of the pear, near the stem, to check for ripeness. Once it yields slightly, it's ready to eat. If you're not quite ready to enjoy it, you can pop it in the fridge to slow down the process. What's the advantage of including pears in your diet? For one, pears are high in dietary fiber, which can help maintain regularity and support healthy digestion, something that can become more important as we age. Pears also provide vitamin C, and they're typically lower in acid than citrus fruits, which can be comforting if you have a sensitive stomach. Frank discovered that he could poach pears in water or a light syrup, creating a tender, tasty dessert that felt gourmet without costing a fortune. He also learned to slice pears thinly for a fresh salad or pair them with cheese for a satisfying snack. The emotional benefit here is rediscovering variety. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut, buying the same items over and over until we lose the spark of enjoyment in our meals. Adding pears to your rotation can bring a touch of elegance or novelty, reminding you that food can still surprise and delight even in your 70s or 80s. Frank says he now looks forward to checking the ripeness of his pears each morning, deciding whether it's the perfect day to eat one or to leave it for tomorrow. It's a small ritual, but it brings a sense of anticipation and enjoyment to his routine. So if pears aren't on your list right now, consider giving them another try. Explore different varieties, play around with ripeness levels, and don't be afraid to incorporate them into both sweet and savory dishes. Who knows, you might discover a new favorite that helps you stay both nourished and interested in what you're eating day after day. We've now explored 5 fruits that can support your nutrition without straining your budget: bananas, apples, oranges, berries, especially frozen, and pears. Each has its unique flavors, textures, and health perks. They're all relatively easy to incorporate into meals or snacks, and they each have their own little charm, whether it's the comforting sweetness of a ripe banana or the bright burst of flavor in a handful of berries. Think back over the stories you've just heard. Glenn rediscovered how bananas aren't just sugar bombs. Linda adjusted her approach to apples so she could keep enjoying them after dental work. Michael realized that whole oranges could be less acidic and more beneficial than constant orange juice. Barbara found that frozen berries saved her money and prevented waste. And Frank learned that pears just need a bit of patience and understanding to become a true delight. These stories show that with a little creativity and some simple strategies, you can keep these fruits on hand and benefit from their nutrients, even if you're dealing with physical limitations or dietary concerns. As you consider these 5 fruits, it's worth noting that none of them are magic bullets. While they each offer vitamins, minerals, and fiber, they're most effective when paired with a generally balanced diet and, if possible, regular physical activity. If you're taking medications or managing chronic conditions, it's always wise to mention any major dietary changes to your healthcare provider, just to ensure there aren't any unexpected interactions. But by and large, these fruits are widely recommended for older adults who want to maintain or improve their overall well-being. Now, you might be tempted to say, "I'll get to it one day," but there's real value in making a change sooner rather than later. The prices in grocery stores can fluctuate, but these 5 fruits are consistently among the more cost-effective options. If you make them part of your upcoming shopping routine, you can start enjoying the benefits, both physical and emotional, right away. There's a reason many seniors find renewed vigor once they tune up their diets just a little bit. More stable energy, better digestion, and often a more positive outlook on mealtime. Picture yourself getting ready in the morning, cutting a few slices of pear or banana to top your cereal, or maybe preparing a simple side dish of applesauce to serve with lunch. Imagine the satisfaction of reaching for a handful of frozen berries to stir into your yogurt, knowing you're giving your body important nutrients without a lot of fuss or expense. Visualize the bright scent of an orange, peeled and ready to enjoy alongside a cup of tea. These small moments add up, turning routine meals into something more engaging and nourishing, both for the body and the spirit. If you're ready to take the next step, here are some easy ways to put this into action. On your next grocery trip, commit to picking up at least 2 of these fruits. Store them in a way that ensures you'll see them often, maybe in a visible spot on the counter or at the front of your refrigerator. Experiment with at least one new recipe or preparation method this week: baked apples, frozen banana ice cream, or a simple orange salad. And if you have friends or neighbors who also want to improve their diet, consider sharing a bag of frozen berries or splitting a bunch of bananas so everyone benefits without any waste. For those of you who like to go the extra mile, consider keeping a small food journal. Jot down which fruits you ate, how you prepared them, and how you felt afterward. It doesn't have to be detailed, just enough to notice any patterns or positive changes. Some people discover they have more energy for a short walk, more regular digestion, or even a brighter mood. Finally, I invite you to share what you've learned. Maybe you have a family member who's hesitant to try new foods, or a friend at your community center who complains about grocery prices. Pass along these tips and let them know that budget-friendly nutrition is possible. By spreading the word, you're helping build a community of seniors who support and inspire each other to make healthier, more affordable food choices. Remember, each of these 5 fruits is simply one piece of a larger puzzle of good health. But by incorporating them in small, manageable ways, you can take an active role in your well-being. This is about respecting the wisdom we've gained over the years while staying open to new insights. You've lived a lot of life already, and your body deserves the care and nourishment that can help keep you vibrant for many more years to come. Here's to enjoying every bite, and to feeling stronger and more confident with each small step you take.